What is even surprising is that companies do not utilize the supplier evaluation functionality. Okay.
Yeah.
Supplier evaluation, when you want to check out if the supplier are actually delivering you on time, delivering you with the price that they have committed, delivering you with the packaging instruction, delivering you with the quality that need to be in place. So no complaints are eventually received by the production people or further down by the customer. So that's another area where
Yeah.
supply evaluation can play a major role.
Thanks so much for joining another edition of the Never Ending Climb for a Stronger Supply Chain and Procurement for companies running SAP. Today, I have the immense pleasure of welcoming a first ever podcast guest. This is his first podcast ever. So huge kudos for the courage that it takes to join and jump out and do this for the first time. Jawad Akhtar. And he is a go-to expert for supply chain, an author, SAP press author. Go read his book, Solution Architect and a Designer of Supply Chains. Jawad, thanks so much for joining today.
Thank you as well, Sean. Thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure to be on your show. Thank you for this honor as well.
Amazing. So, as I know you're passionate about helping companies get a better ROI out of their SAP investment, and it's so easy to invest in something and set it up a tiny bit, or maybe set it up, but not necessarily the way it should be or could be set up. And I know
Yes.
this is something that you're passionate about. There's sometimes lots of tools that are available, but maybe they're not being used or not being used as they were intended. And this is something I think we've both seen over our careers. What are some of the examples of tools that are available that aren't being used the way we know that they should be?
So, Sean, the passion that I've always been very much about is to make sure that the tools, the features, the latent functionality, the hidden features are put to better use in the SAP system. For example, one such tool is that company and the procurement personnel often struggle with the planned delivery time. So, how long it takes to actually procure a material, and if the procurement timelines are right, or they need to be updated. So, what most people don't know is that in the S4 HANA database, the planned delivery times are actually automatically calculated, and you can always go back to your master data and update this so you have a more realistic timeline when it comes to the product that will be delivered by your various supplier, by interplant transfer. So that is one such functionality. I also feel that companies, even if they're not into the production part of it, they can put better use of their materials requirement planning tool. So MRP
Yeah.
is a tool that I feel that a lot of companies do not actually use them, or they do not make the best use of it. For example, MRP can actually calculate your reorder point. It can actually automatically calculate your safety stock as well. Okay,
Yeah.
so those functionalities for the B class material or the C class material are not put to better use. Another
Talk
functionality,
about a best kept secret. How many people still do that on Excel, hope they don't have a formula error, and then try to figure out how to put it all back into SAP
uh, uh,
when it can calculate for them, right? It's amazing.
yes, it's amazing, and it's actually something that can be put to use right away. I mean, if you
Yep.
look at the materials master screen of MRP, it has four different tabs. So no other tab, no other area has that much information as the MRP. But companies really don't put that to use. So that is kind of something we all need to focus on to get better ROI. And all it needs is a better understanding, going back to the data and updating it, understanding the fields and all that. So that is one area where I feel. Another area where I feel is the demand-driven replenishment, which is a concept promoted by Carol Patak and Chad Smith from the Demand-Driven Institute. And DDMRP is actually available in the SAP system. And what it does is it actually makes sure that your net flow position is very smooth. So you never have a stock out situation, but you also never have a overstock situation. So it look at the current demand, it look at the current stock available, the situation that can prevent the overstock or the understock. So, and this is very much real time. The information that you feed is actually there to actually help the planner in making informed decision of what need to be procured, which one of them have a more variability, which one of them have a long lead time, which one are simply slow moving or the dead stock that need to be managed somehow. So that's another area where I feel a lot of planner can actually benefit from.
Yeah.
Another simulation to I would call it a simulation tool because you can actually we talked about MRP and all that, right? So, but
Yeah.
there is MRP when you run the MRP, it actually update the database, okay? But
Yes.
before you actually run the MRP, there's another tool known as predictive MRP, which is a simulative tool. So you actually can simulate all the results. You can see what all the
What
material you
if?
will be the what if. It's a total
Yeah.
what if, full dress rehearsal, and that is available. And the best part about it, that the concept and the understanding that you have for the MRP, that can be put right away to better use in the predictive MRP. Only that it doesn't hit the database, that it doesn't actually, but it provides you the complete visibility, how much of the warehouse space you will need, how much of the investment in terms of the money you will have to make to procure the and the best part is you can actually inform your supplier. You can inform your supplier that these are the requirement that I will be having from you, so they can actually plan things that they're in, procure the material that the supplier need to provide you with the material that eventually you will need. So all these tools will ensure a better supply chain, and we can actually reduce the volatility, the complexity, the uncertainty, and even the ambiguity that we all come across in the supply chain. So those are some of the tools.
It feels like such an important capability and a depth of capability within the SAP system because people often buy it because it's considered to be such a powerful engine for calculating that supply chain, calculating the demand,
Yes,
calculating the
yes,
requirements at all of the different levels of the bills of materials that all
yes,
collapse into each other.
yes,
And the number of organizations that have a story that sounds like, hey, we're buying $1 billion worth of goods, and we have 100 direct material planners and procurement analysts,
yes,
and we run SAP. And I can't help but think to myself every time I hear that, how much opportunity there must be for those organizations to use the tool they've already bought more
yes,
effectively.
yes,
And it takes an outside eye to be able to go in and look at that and identify, for instance, demand-driven replenishment could be used
yes,
for this category or for this set of goods, or that hey, your stock levels are a little out of whack, and if we recalculate those, here's
yes,
the impact to the balance sheet. But you
yes,
can do that. You just
yes,
need to be deliberate about going and looking for it. And
yes,
it takes a somewhat unique set of experience, skill, and knowledge of how the machine works.
yes,
It's
yes,
a little bit like it's a little harder than it used to be 20, 30 years ago to change the oil on your own car. Doesn't mean
yes,
you can't do it. It just means that you got to get your hand into some spots. It's really tight
yes,
and know
yes,
exactly where to push and pull to go make something happen. Even an
yes,
air filter is a little trickier than it used to be to change. And I think
yes,
the parallel with the SAP system is that when you don't know how to change a tire, how to change an filter, how to
yes,
change your oil,
yes,
you need to go get somebody to go do that, or you're running the machine and it's going to be very inefficient. Or,
yes, yes,
as much as it may be a digital asset that might not literally blow up the way some of the physical assets would be,
yes,
it is still an asset that we need to care for and maintain
yes,
and take care
yes,
of. And
yes,
I love the way that you emphasized how important it is to understand the different categories and how you can and even should be using the automatic calculation. And if you're on S4, that
yeah,
wonderful simulation tool to be
yes,
able to go and plan and simulate and calculate And if you are buying $1 billion worth of direct spend and you have 100 direct material planners and supply planners and procurement analysts, there's something seriously missing because there's
Yes.
a whole layer of automation that should be in place, but it's not. So as a when to know that you have a problem, step one,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
some of those conditions, and then how do you get a better return on investment? Well, what would that mean if you could run that supply chain with half of those people?
Yes. Yes. And to add to that conversation, Sean, I just cannot get enough to. I never get tired of actually emphasizing. I never do because it just burns me sometimes that I know companies that are still using Excel to predict how much material they will be needing. I
Isn't
say
that
why
crazy?
not? Why not? There is the inbuilt tool known as the forecasting tool in the SAP system, and all you have to do, you don't have to do anything. You have to simply select the forecasting model, be it the constant or the moving average or the seasonal moving average, etc. And the system will look at the historical consumption pattern and it will actually predict what all the material you will be needing. Okay, so that forecasting tool is inbuilt, but I understand the next generation of tools, such as the integrated business planning, is there, and a lot of entire supply chain planner discussing how to utilize the integrated business planning components, such as the sales and operations planning is one of them. Then
Yeah.
IBP for demand is another one. IBP for inventory is the other one. Then IBP for response and supply planning. And then to top of all this, there is a supply chain control tower that can be put to use and get the necessary alerts and the end-to-end visibility. And another tool in the SAP system, which I feel a lot of companies can use, is known as the early warning alert. Okay, it's a very user-defined alert that anybody can set up in about 15 minutes or 20 minutes of training. So all when you're facing delay in terms of your supply, when the prices are going too high, so the procurement planner can actually set up the alert on their own, and the system can actually group the alerts and actually bring up all the information in the inbox and inform that okay, these are the material that are facing a lot of delays. These are the material that are almost out of stock, so the procurement planner will have to do some firefighting to ration the material. So
Yep.
those tools are also available
And what
in
I love about that is it
yes,
moves it moves the supply chain analyst or the procurement analyst from
yes,
a firefighting because somebody at the plant called them and told them about the problem to
yes,
them proactively saying,
right,
"Hey, we
yes,
identified this and we've already
yes,
solved it. Here's the plan."
yes,
And
and
that automatic heads up, it can make the difference between that supply chain and procurement analyst
yes,
being the guy that screwed up again and we got to call him to fix it, to being the
yes,
guy that was so on top of it because he told us that he headed off the problem before it happened. And
yes,
he's
yes,
telling us instead
yes,
of them telling him.
yeah, and that's what's all about, that the entire proactive approach and the tools that are already available. Okay, you really do not have to invest in terms of buying a digital tool, implementing a digital
Right.
tool, but it's actually the utilizing the tools that are already available to get a better return on investment. So the
Yeah.
forecasting tool I mentioned, the early warning alert that I mentioned, another tool. Another tool which I feel is the special procurement key. So special procurement key is when you have to get material from another plant to for interplant transfer. When you have some subcontracting processes, these special
Stock
procurement
transfers.
keys are available and they can be put to use right away. Okay, maybe a bit of customization, maybe a bit of running the
You don't have to
MRP.
sell it and invoice it and ship it and bring it back in. You can transfer it directly between.
You
Talk
can
about
transfer.
crazy, right?
Absolutely. That is another area which I feel could be better utilized by the entire supply chain planner. And
Agreed.
when it comes to the procurement, what is even surprising is that companies do not utilize the supplier evaluation functionality. Okay.
Yeah.
Supplier evaluation, when you want to check out if the supplier are actually delivering you on time, delivering you with the price that they have committed, delivering you with the packaging instruction, delivering you with the quality that need to be in place. So no complaints are eventually received by the production people or further down by the customer. So that's another area where supply
Yeah.
evaluation can play a major role, and it's all set up available in the SAP system. And one another latent functionality is the supplier selection or supplier qualification. So there was a time when SAP Ariba was considered as a go-to solution for supplier evaluation, supplier selection. But S/4HANA has this functionality where, for example, you set up the criteria and set up the scoring that if this company has a 1 billion of annual turnover, so they will get 80%. But if they have 500 millions of annual turnover, so they get 70%. Okay. If they have production or the manufacturing location in 10 countries, they get 90%. So before you start the entire procurement process, you need to make sure you have the tools available that can narrow down the supplier who qualify and meet your criteria of the selection. And only those that meet the selection criteria are then taken further in terms of the procurement process. So all of that are available right in the SAP system. And
Automatically. Yeah.
yes, yes,
Automatically selecting
automatic,
not
out of the
just
box.
automatically the lowest price, but
Yes,
automatically selecting the supplier that has the highest on time performance if it's
on
the
time.
following scenario. That
Absolutely.
I think is so critical to consider that could be and should be done automatically pretty often
Yes.
and
Pretty
no
often.
longer needs the human intervention to go and run it.
Yes, yes,
Jawad,
yes.
one of the things that strikes me is that you are literally one of the top experts in the world on materials management
Okay.
and moving from ECC into S4. And there's a
Yes,
whole bunch of changes that happen, like there's the vendor and customers that become a business partner, and you
yes.
go from a whole series of tables to the MatDoc and a universal ledger for materials, which is super cool, by the way. But when you think about some of the changes around inventory management, WM, stockroom management, etc., how would you paraphrase some of those for people that they're facing some of this uncertainty going from ECC to S4? They're not sure they're getting all the clear advice. What would you want to say to somebody that's moving to S4 or maybe upgrading to a newer version of S4 and they need to make sure that they're thinking about materials management the right way? What would you want them to consider?
Um, Starting off, I wish to give the necessary comfort to the audience, to the supply chain planner, to the procurement personnel as well. That if you actually know how to drive one car, so the concept, functionality, the fundamentals are same when you drive another model of car. Driving a Tesla or driving a General Motor or a Ford, there may be some changes, but not something very dramatic or something out of the world. Okay. Major changes that I can actually try and summarize could be that in ECC there is the vendor and the customer, but in S4 the concept has totally changed to the business partner. So now business partner is the leading object, and customers or the supplier is the supporting object. So that is one change. There is a single transaction to create a business partner. That is one area where there is a simplification happening over here. And on top of all that, in the S4, the user interface, okay, the graphical user interface of a SAP GUI is there. But then I would highly recommend companies to actually focus on the SAP Fury user interface because SAP is heavily investing in the Fury interface. And Fury is the next generation web-based interface, and that is actually very user friendly as well. We use the browser all day, we use it every day. But having said that, a bit of change management is required because knowing the transaction from GUI to using the web interface in the SAP Fury, and then knowing where to click, which option, which drop down to utilize, It are some of the areas which a bit of change management, some upskilling is needed. Okay, and the Fury apps for analytics is a massive area where procurement, inventory, the entire supply chain, they actually get a very visually appealing information dashboard layout, and that is something that can go on and on because SAP itself is heavily investing in the Fury interface as well. So those are
I
the
think there's some companies that have moved to S4
yes,
and they have not rolled out Fiori. And to
yes,
me, some of those overview and reporting and analytics capabilities,
yes,
even for senior leaders, if you have moved to S4 and you don't have those, you
yes,
need to go and knock on some doors and say, guys, where's the stuff? Because
yes,
I'm
uh,
supposed to have these cool overview analytics KPIs and I know we own them. Why aren't
yes,
they assigned to me? And if it's
yes,
just a matter of setting it up, you can get an
yes,
intern to go set that up and get them
yes,
assigned in
yes.
a week or less.
Yes. You talked about the resources, my book on the materials management with S/4HANA, the third edition. It
Yeah.
has got a big chapter on the Fury app that could be put to use. There are also other online resources. For example, Michael Management, they have the Fury courses available. And then there is a lot of online free stuff. For example, SAP Learning Journey is one of them, where you can learn the interface. You can even get a trial version to actually check out the Fury interface. So that is also very much there. And like you rightly mentioned, Sean, that because with every version of S4, SAP is coming up and bringing up and introducing more Fury apps. Okay. So simply
Yeah.
assign the role to that user, and the Fury apps are just up and running in no time whatsoever. So, and once you learn the basics of Fury interface and all that, it just a click and just more clicking. So really nothing much to actually, and the best part, if you still love Excel, I know we know a lot of people know that. So you can actually download the content from your Fury analytics app into the Excel and analyze this further, process this further. So I just cannot speak enough on the Fury analytics app, and there's just tremendous amount of functionality. And they keep on innovating with more features and more functionality.
Yep.
So that is an ongoing part of the thing. And
One
taking up
one
on
quick thing, Jawad,
yeah,
is there are some users that say no, GUI was faster. But in my experience, the only reason somebody is still saying that
yeah,
is it's called Stockholm syndrome. And
yes,
this referred to somebody that was kidnapped and they start to really like their kidnappers.
yes,
And you can go Google that, but it's something that people have gotten so used to that they
yes,
actually they had to overcome it and then
yeah,
eventually maybe get to like it. And it's
yes,
not that hard to go and get one of those people. It really doesn't take very long, as long
yes,
as they decide that they're going to try it. So the
yes,
change management is not
yes,
about is not so much about the training. That is an
yes,
important ingredient. The
yes,
trickiest part of changing for those people going from the old user experience to the new one with Fiori
yes,
is just
yes,
helping them decide that they're
yes,
going to get there. And
yes,
man, they get there fast. And then they're
yes.
wondering how they put up with the old one as long as they did.
Absolutely. And honestly, Sean, because I also have over 2 decades of SAP experience with the older of, I don't know, 3.1 version of ECC, now moving to 2023 and looking forward to the next versions in about another year or so.
Yep.
So the point is that even I often wonder that how and why did I wasted so much of time in the GUI and like remembering the transaction code and like checking out the menu path and all that. So I think the only thing that is constant is the chain. Okay, and we
Yes.
have to
100%.
constantly evolve. We have to constantly change. And the message that I have for the audience, for your audience over here, is that uh, once you have invested on the SAP system, you still have to have that continuous improvement roadmap, continuous enablement roadmap, continuous mindset where you say that, okay, these are the additional functionality, these are the newly introduced functionality, new innovation that we need to continue evaluating and putting them to better use. So we can actually reduce or minimize the customization, minimize the need for development, and oftentimes, you know what happens when I go to clients and all, when I show them the Fury apps, the analytics apps, even the features and functionality of the SAP system, they go back and say, okay, where we can put this to use, okay, where we actually can utilize this functionality. I'll give you one example, okay. Allow me
Yeah,
to. So
please.
there is a component in S4 system or even the SAP system that is known as the document management system. So it amazes me that the inbuilt component document management has been available for time immemorial. Okay, but companies are still saving the procurement contracts, the supplier agreement, the quality certificates, and all that in some other external hard drive or some SharePoint and all that.
And
Why
with
not?
there's no link to the document.
There's no link to that, but the document management offers huge areas for improvement. It doesn't cost you anything on the license part, okay? And it can actually embed in most of your day-to-day business. For example, if you're creating a purchase order, you're creating a contract, you're receiving good, you are creating a quantity or a value contract, any business area, even other areas such as the plant maintenance or the project system, okay, the supply chain has to go through all this. And the document management functionality in terms of attachment, in terms of searching, in terms of linking, they're all available, and they're not put to better use. So that
Yeah,
is something which can bring tremendous amount of improvement in the processes that companies follows and utilize. So
100%. I know in the way that we run S4, when
yes,
I get an invoice or a PO, I know there's a link using this capability to the
yes,
document. I click the link, I can look at the document. We get
yes,
an
yes,
invoice and it comes, it didn't automatically process. We need to
yes,
go and cross check something because it didn't
yes,
automatically three-way match,
yes,
or
yes,
it was something that came in without a PO, which I mean, everybody gets those once in a while.
yes,
Then that kind of document, you want to have
yes,
the link to it. And you want to
yes,
know after it's approved, your auditor wants it to be
yes,
really easy and fast to go in and find
absolutely,
it and follow the bouncing ball. I
absolutely.
love it.
And just a bit of further hints and tips, okay, that
Yeah.
with the Fury interface, now SAP offers the automatic link. Even if you don't have the document management in the system, you can
Yep.
actually simply scroll down the Fury interface screen or whatever transaction you're in. Just go down and you will find the link to upload the document, link to the URL and all that. So those functionalities are also there. For example, you have a supplier invoice coming in. Okay, so
Yep.
you do the transaction to record the supplier invoice, but you would also like to have that original supplier invoice that you would like to upload in the system. So that is also very much there. So anyone not using it would be doing a injustice to the SFA system. So
Yeah.
that is something we.
If you're not
Uh,
using it, I have questions.
yes, yes, yes. So I need to go and actually intervene and tell them please start using this because this
Friends
will
don't
add.
let friends use SAP without at least dropping a link in there.
Yes, yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
Jawad, I am so grateful for you joining, and I am really humbled and delighted that you chose this to be your first podcast ever. You totally rocked it. Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you so
am
much.
very
Thank
grateful. I
and
know we're going to link up your book or books so that it's easier for people to find that. And I know you're always super easy to find on LinkedIn. Um, again, thank you so much, Jawad. And for everybody listening, this has been another edition of the never ending climb for a stronger supply chain and procurement companies running SAP. Thanks, and we'll see
thank
you next week.
thank you so much, Sean. It's been a huge pleasure for me as well, and I'm actually very honored. I'm very honored in the way you have carried forward the entire conversation. It just looked like we are on a fireside chat and having some very friendly conversation. So that
Yeah,
made the entire experience very, very memorable. Okay. And I hope we will continue to have such discussion in future as well. So thank you for the
I'd love that.
opportunity. Take care. Thank you.